While most of the Islamic world accepted the approaches to hadith and fiqh taken by its leading scholars, but a minority rejected them altogether. So their departure from the mainstream Muslim community was fundamentally a political, but over a time religious dimension evolved. The group that believed Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu and his descendants had the most right to the caliphate began to develop divergent thoughts on Islamic law and hadiths that stemmed from the political differences of the early caliphate. This group called themselves Shi'at Ali, meaning the party of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Short version called Shias. For the Shia, it all stemmed from the election of Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu as caliph on the day of the Prophet, peace be upon him, died. In the meeting where Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu historically nominated Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu and gave an oath of allegiance to him, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was not present. While Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu himself accepted Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu's caliphate, later generations of Shias began to question its legitimacy. In their eyes, the cousin and son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, should have been at that meeting and should have been elected as the first caliph. This led to a belief that Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and all who supported them, excluding Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu of course, were usurpers or usurpers who denied the family of Prophet their rightful role as the leaders of the Muslim Ummah. To the Shias, the entire concept of the caliphate was avoided. Instead, they advocated that the Muslim world should be ruled by a descendant of Muhammad, peace be upon him, through his daughter Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, who was married to Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhum. So these leaders were dubbed imams instead of a caliphate. The Shias promoted an imamate in which only descendants of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu had the right to rule. The Shia considered Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu as the first imam, while his son Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhu were the second and third respectively. Even with their beliefs in imamate instead of a caliphate, the Shias were not yet a separate sect of Islam. The imamate was simply a political concept which did not automatically have any religious implications. In fact, Umayyad and Abbasids caliphates were commonly referred to as imams as well. In order for the Shias to be considered a religious group instead of just a political one, their arguments about the first caliphs had to go a step further. That step was the idea that if Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu and his supporters were usurpers, and then any hadith narrated by them could not be trusted. This argument carried huge religious implications. People who supported Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu caliphate narrated the vast majority of the hadith that was accepted by Muslim scholars. The Prophet, peace be upon him's wife Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha and his neighbor Abu Huraira together accounted for hundreds of hadiths listed in Sahih al-Bukhari. To the Shias, these hadiths could not be trusted because of their political support for Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. To fill the void created by the rejection of thousands of hadith, the Shia elevated the sayings of the Imams to a level just below, or in some cases equal, to the Prophet's, peace be upon him, saying. To the rest of the Muslim world, this was blasphemy. But to Shias, the Imam, due to their special lineage, were infallible interpreters of religion, given special knowledge directly from God. Much of this ideology seems to have been influenced by the Mu'tazili philosophy, whereas in orthodox approaches to Islam, the ideas of human with special semi-divine status was unheard of. The Neo-Platonic idea of some of the major philosophers of the early Abbasid age could help the Shias legitimize the imamate from a theological perspective. The main branch of Shiaism is known as Ithana Ashariya, the Twelvers, due to their belief that there were 12 Imams after Muhammad, peace be upon him. According to them, the line of Imams ended with Imam Muhammad al-Mahdi, who went into hiding when he was just 5 years old in 874. Thus began the period known as the minor occultation, during which special representatives were able to remain in communication with him and received guidance for the Shia community. In 941, however, it was announced that al-Mahdi had gone into the greater occultation, and further communication with the hidden Imam become impossible. The Shia believe that the hidden Imam will only return at the end time to inaugurate a utopian era under his leadership. Until he returns, however, Twelvers insist that guidance can be found in the Quran, the Hadith compilation that they accept as authentic, and the action and beliefs of the 12 Imams. The Twelvers were not the only Shia group to have developed in the turbulent early Abbasid age. Another group believed in only 7 Imams and thus came to known as Sabiya, the Seveners. The Seveners were much more successful political than their Twelver cousins, and the 10th century saw the rise of major Sevener Shia states in eastern Arabia and Egypt. The smallest of the Shia groups believe in only 5 Imam and are generally known as Zaydis due to their acceptance of Hussein's grandson Zayd as the final Imam. The Zaydis share much in common with mainstream Islam and are generally much more moderate in their views on the early caliphate than the Seveners and the Twelvers. Shia's idea never caught on in the way their proponents had hoped. Despite intensive vigor in preaching and appeals to Muslim emotion by invoking the conflicts of Ali and Hussein, the majority of the Muslim world did not accept the theological and juristic deviations of Shiaism. In fact, for much of the mainstream majority Muslim body, Shia's ideology posed a grave danger to Islam itself. After all, since the beginning, the Islamic movement had considered itself unique. The Quran described in detail how previous nations who were sent prophets had changed the message and corrupted it to suit their needs, citing Jews and Christians as prime examples. According to the Islamic belief, Muhammad, peace be upon him, had been sent as the final prophet with a pure message that could not be changed or distorted as previous messages had. When this internal intellectual force began to threaten the sanctity of the Islamic movement, their reaction was largely negative. Besides political persecutions by Abbasid's government, mainstream theologians rushed to refute Shia ideology and dubbed themselves Ahl us-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, literally meaning the people who follow the examples of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the consensus of the community, shortened to Sunnis. So the most influential of these theologians, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, the same al-Ghazali who spent much time refuting the Mu'tazili arguments of the philosophers. With a combination of intellectual arguments and political military defeat of Shia states in the 12th century, Shiaism waned in popularity from the 1100s. It was not until the rise of Safavid Empire in early 1500 that Shiaism would again become a major force in the Muslim world.